The New York Rangers have had a very up and down season so far, and this team right now is still on the outside looking in at the playoffs. And going into this season, some fans may not have expected this team to win a cup, but I think most fans, especially Rangers fans, expected this team to at minimum, be a playoff caliber team. And at moments, we have seen them be a playoff caliber team, but we've also seen quite a few moments where they look like a complete non-playoff team and look like maybe one of the worst teams in the NHL. They obviously haven't looked like that for the most part, but there have been a ton of different up and down moments, and we really have seen some great stuff, but also a lot of really bad stuff from this Rangers team so far this season. And there have also been quite a few different changes with this kind of lineup, being, the lines changing quite a bit there. We saw, Kreider and Zibanejad get broken up for the first time, what seems like pretty much forever. We've obviously seen quite a few different trades. We've seen some extensions handed out. We've seen some players, picked up off waivers. We've seen some prospects get called up, get sent down. So there have been a ton of different kind of moves and kind of roster transactions that have happened so far this season with an attempt to kind of get this team back on track. And in this upcoming offseason, there is definitely going to be some talk, especially amongst Rangers fans, on whether or not we should see the head coach Peter Laviolette fired and or general manager Chris Drury as well. So in today's video, we're going to talk about whether or not we should see Peter Laviolette or Chris Drury fired in this upcoming offseason. And honestly, I think some big change could be needed as well, but there is a chance that this team can still kind of get back on track here under this management and coaching staff. So we'll kind of talk about that in today's video. But first off here, I just wanted to say I do post every single day a video about the New York Rangers right at 9 a.m. And of course, if there's some breaking news around the New York Rangers, I'll of course have a video out as soon as I can after that news does break. So if you're a Rangers fan, definitely hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoy this video, because I do post every single day a video about the New York Rangers. But carrying on though, and getting into the video here, like I said, we're going to talk about Laviolette and Chris Drury and whether or not they should be fired this upcoming offseason. And personally, I think there is a chance that this team can get back on track here under this management and coaching staff. And I'm going to begin by talking about Chris Drury. And first off, I really don't think we're going to see Chris Drury fired. I know some fans definitely want to see it happen. And I made videos earlier on this season kind of talking about me thinking, Chris Drury probably should be fired and should be let go. And I'm not completely against seeing him fired, but I'm also not completely for him being fired. I think he has definitely done some very questionable moves with this Rangers team. There have been some good, and there have been some very bad ones as well. I mean, he has not been a perfect general manager by any means. He has made quite a few different kind of really questionable moves, but I think for the most part, as of late, he has made some fairly smart moves here, especially around this trade deadline, and I think he is starting to kind of understand that maybe this core that we've seen for quite some time now just was not going to work, and he's finally really started to kind of try and attempt to change things up. Now, obviously, it was not going to happen in one season there, and we have not even had really one offseason of seeing Chris Drury really kind of changing and retooling this roster, right? Because we went into this season with the expectations of this kind of core group of players being able to get this team to at least the playoffs there, and then you kind of see what Igor can do pretty much and hope he can kind of carry this team along, which that is definitely a plan. Maybe it's not a good one, but it is a plan for the playoffs, obviously, kind of hoping Igor can kind of carry you along. And we knew as fans, for the most part there, that after watching what this team did against Tampa a few years ago now, back in the playoffs when they lost in Eastern Conference Finals against them, and then obviously in this past playoff run against Florida, they're losing to them, this Rangers team was just not built the right way for the playoffs with this kind of core group of players, with guys like Zibanejad, Kreider, Panarin, them being that main kind of core group of guys. It probably was not going to be enough to kind of get the job done without having Igor completely carry this team along. And we saw Igor pretty much carry this team along in that, series against, Tampa there all the way up in that playoff run up until, we lost to Tampa there in the conference finals. Then we saw even against the Devils the year after that Tampa series there, again, Igor played phenomenal there, although the Rangers lost in Game 7. Igor was still, a main kind of guy, obviously, for the Rangers in that series. And then you see in last year's playoff run there, Igor did carry this team all the way along there, and he has been absolutely elite over the last 3 playoff runs. So we know Igor is a playoff guy. He shows up when things matter most, and he can definitely get the job done there and has proven to be a guy who can carry this team quite a ways. But you still have to have a good enough roster around Igor, your goalie. You're obviously your key guy come playoff time, but the roster around him was just not good enough. There weren't enough physical players out there on the ice that can kind of wear the other team down there, be just kind of a menace out there, piss the other team off, but get under their skin. There wasn't enough of that physical play that we all know, I think for the most part there, that this Rangers team needed to add more of. And we have seen some kind of moves getting towards that now with, this past offseason, adding a guy like Sam Carrick on the 4th line there. Him out as 4th line center, for around $1 million per season there, 3-year deal. I thought that was quite phenomenal there. I think he can be a great 4th line center, but obviously he's not going to be much more than that. You still need to have guys in your top 9 who can also bring that physical play. A guy like Sam Bennett on Florida there, we saw him, firsthand. He's that kind of guy. He can be a top 6 caliber guy offensively, bring that kind of offensive talent, but he's also got that great physical play that'll piss you off there. You hate to play against him. So the Rangers obviously need to add more guys like that, and I think Sam Bennett could obviously be a target this offseason. We'll have to wait and see, what happens there. I kind of imagine he's probably going to it for agency. He probably won't be able to kind of get locked up by the Panthers there after, they've obviously made quite a few different moves there, adding in Seth Jones and Brad Marchand now, and obviously him getting that extension there. Things are definitely going to be interesting with Florida, so they're probably not going to be able to get a guy like Sam Bennett. So adding in more players like that, though, who have that physicality, who can, get under the other team's skin there. And a guy like Brendan Hoffman, he can definitely bring some of that. A guy like Sam Carrick, he can bring that. Susie, he can bring some of that physical play. But the Rangers need more of that in their kind of top nines for the forward side of things there. And a guy like Will Cooley taking this big step up this season was a very nice thing. But you still need more guys like that. So I am hopeful this offseason we see some more kind of continued change here with this roster, and we really see Chris Drury continue to kind of reshape and rebuild and retool this roster. Now, we're not going to see like a full-on kind of quote-unquote rebuild with this team, obviously. They're not going to, trade away all their top pieces and go out there and look for a bunch of prospects and picks, but they can still go out there and trade away some of these core players like they've already kind of started to do, trading away a guy like Ryan Lingard, for example. He may not have been a part of the core going forward at this point, but Chris Drury realized that and knew that he was not going to be and decided to trade him away. Same thing with a guy like Riley Smith and Jimmy Vesey. It wouldn't shock me at all if he did come back on like a near league minimum deal, but obviously Vesey could win the door as well. You got back some assets for him. For guys, obviously, maybe we're not going to come back, obviously, especially guys like Riley Smith and Lingard. I never thought they'd ever come back. Vesey, it's definitely possible, but what I'm trying to get at is I really do think Chris Drury is going to be here for at least one more season, meaning he's going to get this offseason to at least have another chance at kind of really reshaping this roster, because you take a look, he really didn't start the kind of reshaping of this roster until he started to wave a guy like Barclay Goodrow and then traded away Capo Caco, and obviously Jacob Trouba got traded away. And we've seen, so many different kind of moves that have happened so far this season. You trade away a guy like Filipino, you add in JT Miller, then you get Susie. And obviously we've seen a bunch of moves there. And obviously we've seen a lot of new players kind of come in here. A lot of lines have changed. So I think Chris Drury is going to have at least a minimum one more season, whether or not he deserves it. And some fans may think he doesn't deserve it and he should be fired right away. And, that's fair. I understand their people's point of view there if you think that, because he has definitely made some questionable moves there, and this team is not in a great spot right now. And he has, had quite a few seasons to kind of get this team towards, really winning a cup there. And we've just kind of seen this team rely on Igor in the playoffs to kind of carry this team along. But I think ultimately Chris Drury is going to have at least, at minimum, this offseason to kind of continue his reshaping of the roster there to kind of hopefully get this team back on track. And I think he's definitely at least attempting to go in a different direction, which is pretty clear, with the moves he's made so far. So I think that's good. He's going in a different direction. He wants to get kind of new kind of core group of players maybe, which I think is really good. And hopefully he can make the right moves here to get the job done and get this team truly back on track. But now let's kind of talk about Peter Laviolette, because I think this is pretty interesting where Peter Laviolette kind of ties in, because I don't think he's maybe as safe as a guy like Chris Drury. I don't think there's a chance where, Drury would get fired and Laviolette stays. That would never happen, I don't think. But there is a chance where we do see Drury stay, which I think is very likely. Whether or not I like that, I think Drury's going to stay. And I don't mind what he's done so far with some of the moves that he has kind of made, trying to reshape this roster. So I think that's fine there. Drury can stay for another offseason there, and we'll see what he does, this offseason with the moves he makes, and hopefully we see maybe a Keandre Miller trade and, them adding in another kind of top 6 forward, maybe another top 4 defenseman. That would not be bad at all. But for Peter Laviolette, I think there is a chance he does get fired. I don't know exactly kind of what percentage I put it at there. I really have no idea kind of where he stands, but it just wouldn't shock me if he did get fired. I'm not against keeping him either, because he's a guy who's, obviously had a lot of success in the NHL, in the AHL. He's been a great kind of coach for such a long time in the NHL and has been, well above average, I'd say, coaching wise for so many years. But it is possible we could see, some kind of a coaching change happen if people higher up in the organization or ownership do want to see some kind of a big coaching change happen. Maybe he does get fired, but really and truly, I'm not against seeing Laviolette and his guys stay. I think they've done a decent job. Has been perfect by no means, but you take a look at kind of the issues that this team has had for so many years now. It's not like these are new things that Peter Laviolette kind of came in here and he started coaching these players and they just started, falling off with their physical play and weren't great 5-on-5 players, right? These are things that we have known about this team for so many years. So it's not really like all on them, I don't think. The coaching staff and particular. So that's why I am kind of hopeful that if we do keep, Drury and Laviolette along here for at least another season or two, that maybe we can see this team kind of get back on track here if Chris Drury can make the right changes. And I do think we still need to see some big changes. I wouldn't mind seeing a guy like Keandre Miller traded away. Actually, I'm kind of hopeful for that happening this offseason there to kind of see a maybe true kind of top 4 defenseman or another kind of top pairing guy added in here. That would not be bad at all. No top 6 forward being added in here. Chris Kreider being traded away might not be the worst idea for this team. So I am hopeful we're going to see some big change here. And if we do see some big change, then I am going to be kind of hopeful going forward about this organization and franchise of them possibly kind of getting back on track here, because we have seen a lot of the exact same issues with this team and kind of the way they play for year after year after year. It's lack of physical play. It's the not great 5-on-5 play. It's relying on your goaltender way too much. We saw that with Lundqvist. We saw that with Igor. It has been like an organizational issue with this team for so many years now. And really and truly, I hope we do see some major change happen. And if it does happen, then maybe we do see this team kind of get back on track here. And we have seen some moves so far from Chris Drury trying to kind of reshape this roster a bit here. So I am hopeful that he's going to at least attempt it. But obviously, he's got to get the right players in here and make the right moves to ultimately see this team get back on track towards potentially winning a Stanley Cup. Anyways, just kind of recap here. I don't think Chris Drury is going to get fired. I think he's going to be around for at least next season. And probably same thing with Laviolette. I don't think we're going to see a coaching change. Maybe if this team really falls off a cliff here near the end of the season here and they just continue to play some really terrible hockey, maybe we do see a coaching change happen. But otherwise, I'm guessing we're probably going to see Laviolette and Chris Drury both stay for at least next season and see what happens there. But hopefully we do see some major change happen with this roster in this upcoming offseason. And so far, we already have seen some attempt at change with, signing a physical fourth-line center like a Sam Carrick. We've also seen a lot of trades happen with Trouba going out the door, Kakko going out the door, Hito going out the door there, JT Miller coming in there, Susie coming in. So we've seen a lot of different trades happen, and obviously this roster is changing quite a bit, but hopefully we can see this team actually become a true Stanley Cup contender at some point in the very near future. Anyways, that's going to do it for today's video. If you have enjoyed it, definitely hit that like and subscribe button for daily New York Rangers content, as I do post every single day at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. And also, definitely don't forget to comment down below your thoughts on who do you think the New York Rangers should fire, if anyone. Do you think it should be Peter Laviolette going out the door, Drury going out the door, both of them going out the door? Who do you want to see stay? Let me know your thoughts. And also, let's go Rangers.